Why Financial Inclusion and Literacy Committee? So we will give more idea of what does it mean by financial inclusion. In Hong Kong, maybe financial inclusion, the problem may not be as obvious, but actually in a lot of developing countries, having a bank account, having access to financial services might not be that easy. So we will later on introduce how we see fintech can actually address the problem of financial inclusion, and then we do believe that by having a committee on the advocacy and education angle focused on financial inclusion and literacy, we will make a fintech more powerful as a tool to achieve the social impact of what the technology is supposed to achieve. So today is Hong Kong Fintech Education Week. So the official Hong Kong Fintech Week is starting tomorrow. Fintech Association of Hong Kong has been very active and building the events, contributing to the community. So if you want to learn about our events activity, you can check it out at our Fintech Week website or follow us on LinkedIn. And as well, we have our landing page created for the FTAHK.org as our standard website. So, I'll pass the time to Filippo to talk about financial inclusion.
I'll see if you can hear me without the mic. I rather speak without the mic, and I also stand up just to make it a little bit more energetic. First of all, I want to apologize for my thick Italian accent. It will take a bit to get used to it, but if you don't understand something, please raise your hand. Let's make it interactive and not boring. I'm going to talk about financial inclusion in developing countries, and I'm going to talk about the work that I run together with the Gates Foundation. I'll also talk about, this is a story about financial exclusion. This is a story about denied access to basic needs and services, and this is a story about technology, how real basic technology can help to solve the problem, bringing millions in a formal financial system. So there are 1.7 billion adults in the world that are unbanked. They mostly live in developing countries. In low-income countries, 70% of women and 60% of men do not have access to an account. We are talking about bank account, we are talking about payment account. What's the impact of being financially excluded? Who of you has a bank account, by the way? None of you, just one. None of you has a bank account. A payment account. Anyone has PayPal? WeChat? Guys, you're really financially excluded. It's so surprising. I think we should focus on Hong Kong now and on developing countries. Anyway, there are different problems when you will start working. When you enter the job market, you realize there are different problems with being unbanked. Being unbanked means that you don't have access to basic financial services like insurance. You cannot hedge your risk against future problems that you might have in your life. You cannot access formal credit. Means that you cannot invest in your education, you cannot invest in your company. At least you cannot do it formally. You need to take loans with a high interest rate and the risk of violence. Also, you won't be able to send money to your family through a reliable and affordable system. You won't be able to make payments online, which I bet that you guys do, so don't trick me, you have an account somewhere. But most of all, it's risky. It's risky to carry cash all the time with you, right? It's risky to not be able to save your money in a safe place. So what do you do when you cannot save money in a safe place? You invest it in risky assets. So you buy gold, which can be easily stolen. You save in saving groups with other friends and strangers that might run away with your money. You might also keep it in cash at home, which of course can be easily stolen. And finally, you might invest in risky assets, such as livestock. Of course, what's the problem with livestock? Why is it a problem to invest in livestock? because eventually it dies. So you lose your capital, and you have to hope that by the time that it dies, it's generating enough revenue. But financial inclusion is not only about financial lives. It's about women empowerment, and it's about gender equality. In a global supply chain, in the workplaces and the factories where they produce our clothes, our technology, our shoes, there are many women today that are paid in cash. And when they receive the salary at the end of the month, they go home and they give this salary to their husbands, to their family members, to their fathers, because they don't have ownership over it. They delegate the financial responsibilities to someone else. If we provide an account to these women, they will have more ownership over their saving, they will have more bargaining power in the household, and they will have a better voice for the financial decision making. So how to spend, how to save money, how to invest money. PSR, my company, and the Gates Foundation have started a program in 2015 called Our Final Digital Wages. Our Final Digital Wages is about digitizing payments in a global supply chain, making sure that those factories that produce our goods, they pay their workers not in cash, but on an account. There are 230 million adults today still paid in cash, and most of them, they don't have an account. If we digitize their salary payments, if factories start to pay them digitally rather than on an account rather than in cash, we can include them in a formal financial system. But there is a catch. Often, traditional banking is not interested. Why not?
It's a very small amount, and it costs them a lot of money to manage so many small accounts and small amounts of money.
Exactly. It's very expensive to operate an account. And if you are a low-income earner, your balance is generally very low. You send a lot of money home, and you're not good at business case for the bank. But there are also other problems. Close to the factories, there are no banks. There are no ATMs. Workers work 6 days out of 7, often 10, 12 hours a day, and they don't have time to go to a bank, or they don't have the documentation, or they are not confident enough. Often, low-income workers in developing countries feel very threatened, very with little confidence to enter in a bank branch. So we had to think, what kind of technology can we use to pay these workers on an account? And what is the technology that we all have? At least in Hong Kong, at least also in the factory. What is the most diffused technology that we always bring with us?
Mobile phones.
Mobile phones, exactly. Imagine. Mobile phones. Everyone has a mobile phone. Doesn't matter whether it's a smartphone or a future phone. So there is this thing that are called future phones. Most of you have no idea what they are because you're too young and you're used to apps, you're used to smartphones. But before, we used to use this. Incredible, right? No colors, just blue and gray, quite sad. But these phones, which are very common in the factory, in the workplaces in developing countries, can be used to pay workers. We open mobile money account for those low-income workers. What is a mobile money account? Well, it can differ a bit, depends where you live. In some places, a mobile money account is a banking account. In Bangladesh, where we start our work in South Asia, a mobile money account is a payment account, which allows you to receive a payment, keep it on the balance as a saving, allows you to gain a little bit of interest rate. You can make transfer, you can pay your merchant, you can pay for grocery, and you can also build your credit history, your transaction history for one day to apply for credits. So, as I told you, we started in, oh boy, what happened there? We started in Bangladesh. Where is Bangladesh? Do you know where is Bangladesh? Which?
The neighborhood of India.
The neighborhood of India. What's the name of the region? South Asia, but very good. It's a neighbor of India, also a neighbor of Myanmar. There are 168 million people living in Bangladesh. It's the third main producer of clothes in the world, after China and India. And so we went in their factories and we started to digitize in 2016 the salary payment, opening account for the workers, training them on how to use this account. And so far we have reached 68 factories, 160,000 workers, which you can read from there, 60% of which are female. We are working together with Levi, H&M, Gap, Marks & Spencer to get in their factory to make sure that the payroll is digitized. In each factory that we go, we make sure that we interview workers at the baseline, so when they are paid in cash, and at the end line, to try to understand what is the impact on your life when we open an account for you. And we saw that 26% or more than 26% of the workers, after being paid digitally and owning an account, are able to save regularly. So especially those workers that at the baseline were not able to save anything each month, they were saving zero, now they're able to put something aside for the future. So they're building their resilience for whatever financial shocks they will have in the future, like an health problem, like climate change, or other problems that might affect them in the future. We also see that the percentage of women that discuss with their family how to manage the salary increased from 27% to 44%. So almost double. And this is great news. It means that we are empowering women. So financial inclusion is not only about providing access, it's also about reaching the Sustainable Development Goal, which probably you have heard of. Some of which are very important, like gender equality and eradicating extreme poverty. And now I'm done. I'm going down with my voice. It was very nice. I want to introduce you to a video. Look, we are so technological, we have to copy and paste on the browser the video. I hope there is sound. So this is from Dhaka. This is one of our beneficiaries. And we went in one of the factories to tell this story.
এভাবে টাকা হারায় আর এইভাবে করলে কম খরচ হয় এবার এগুলো বুঝাইছি পরে ওরা সবাই বুঝছে
Well, thanks so much.
Well, we don't have to watch them all now. They just
Yeah. I think there's some versioning issue on the library. Yeah.
Oh, it's all got cramped together. Okay, we'll just deal with it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Filippo. And we've heard a lot about how financial inclusion and financial literacy is an issue in developing countries. And we can see very clearly that actually it makes a huge difference giving people access to financial services and particularly digital payment systems. So you might be wondering, why are we sat here in Hong Kong wondering about financial inclusion and literacy? Well, at the beginning we asked everybody who has a bank account, and surprisingly few of you have a bank account or something that you would recognize as an account or a financial system that you have access to, which I would have said was quite surprising, but we have some statistics which show that actually you're not alone. There are a lot of people who, like yourselves, don't have access to financial services for a variety of different reasons. So what we're actually going to look at is why is this a problem in developed countries as well as those that we would identify as developing. So just a little bit of background about what I do. As was mentioned at the beginning, I run a financial literacy platform for women, really identifying the issues that women face in managing their money. So literacy is one of them. Of course, inclusion, quite separate from the literacy issue, is also another reason why women don't have the ability to manage their money or take control of their financial independence as much as perhaps their male counterparts do. So this is really why the new Savvy was established and why we focus on this particular topic for women throughout Asia, and we're expanding rapidly. So the main issues that we see for financial inclusion when it comes to developed countries in particular are actually access to having a bank account. People who are perhaps in ethnic minorities, they also face a lot of difficulties in having access to financial services, particularly opening bank accounts. And that's something that we'll explore further in a little while. The difference, the kind of gender parity that we find in understanding financial issues, particularly with a lot of the financial media being focused towards men. There's a lot of complicated terminology, a lot of jargon used, and it's not particularly friendly or relatable to a lot of women. We're very busy, we just want to get things done, we want to receive information in the most easy way possible. And to try and get our heads around a lot of this kind of technical terminology, it is not really relevant to us in our everyday lives. So that's why things are having to change, and it's an important issue when looking at the inclusion factor. And also just the literacy point, just up there in the corner, learning about finance. Where do we get this information from? Are we being taught in schools how to manage our money? Very often not. Are we learning about it in university? Well, we're here today talking about this for exactly that reason. And do we get told by our boss when we take our first paycheck, when we get our bonus, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to use it responsibly? Are you going to put it in a savings account? Or will you just go to Lang Kwai Fung for the weekend? So this is something that we really do need to be talking about, even sat here in Hong Kong, looking at developed countries and understanding what the very real issues are that are stopping people having access to financial services. And how can fintech aid that? So just some statistics for you, which some of them might be quite surprising. 50% of the world's population do not have access to a bank account. So that's not, they choose not to open an account, they don't kind of decide, actually, I don't want to be part of the system. They don't have access to that. 1 million people in Hong Kong alone are without a bank account or credit card. And if we just come down to the bottom right-hand corner, this was quite surprising for me, so being British. 1.6 million of working adults in the UK do not have a bank account. So this isn't just an issue that people in developing countries face. Of course, we know that we need to improve the inclusion factor. But even in countries where they seem to be quite developed, people don't have the same issues when it comes to the type of work they're doing, the type of issues they have with transportation even to get to bank branches. There are still people who do not have access to the services. And just an additional point about Hong Kong in particular, there are 380,000 migrant domestic workers in Hong Kong. And that figure alone is quite staggering. But the fact that most of them don't have the right to be permanent residents in Hong Kong, a lot of them don't have the necessary documentation that banks would require, it means that they don't have access to bank accounts in the way that all of us would do. And it makes it very, very difficult for them not only to manage their money, but to have access to sources of credit and send their money back home, which many of them do, to support their families. So there are quite unique issues that they also face. And that's a huge percentage of the community here and in countries like Singapore, where they do facilitate the lifestyles that we have, but yet they're still marginalized in terms of having access to financial services. So how can fintech actually help with inclusion? Well, as we've seen, just having something as simple as a mobile phone, already that allows people so much more capability in terms of managing their money. You can send money using your phone, even a simple old Nokia, whereas most of us now, we're using apps and different things which make money transfers almost instantaneous. We've got access to these things for contactless payments, such as whether it's Alipay, we're using Octopus cards, it's British, Octopus cards every day. So these things have helped us to use our money in a much easier way that doesn't necessarily require us going to the bank, going to the ATM and going through a complex process. We've got easier access to our money. But just the fact that we are more included in what's happening with our money, we can move it around easier, we can check our balance easier. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're making the right decisions with our money. So I suppose, I've lost a couple of slides. Yeah, I don't necessarily need them. Yeah, it's okay. So just that my next point was just the number of different apps, not just here in Hong Kong. Some of you might know of Neat Card, of lots of different electronic payment systems and digital payment systems that are available. And they are now making it so much easier for people to kind of circumvent the KYC processes where you'd have to present sometimes 22 documents, individual documents, going into the bank. And some of you may not have had these frustrations so far, but believe me, if you're going in to set up a bank account, particularly if you're looking to start a small business, if you want a bank account for your startup, it's a very exhausting and frustrating process. But there are systems which are making it so much easier for you to do all of these things without even having to leave your own home. So that's great. We're now allowing people to have access to those financial services, but we all need to be mindful about what education we're giving people alongside the financial services and what we can do to complement that through the use of fintech. I did have some other stats, I can't remember off the top of my head. One of them was quite scary here in Hong Kong. There was a survey of particularly women, because of course this is what we typically focus on, but even those who had access to a financial advisor, who'd go in, meet with somebody who gives them financial advice, 64% of those women said that they felt that their financial advisor didn't really understand what they were trying to get to and their goals. They didn't feel like they really related to that person. And that's huge. If the person that you're relying on to make crucial decisions about the money that you're earning doesn't understand your objectives and goals. So this is why we have to take control of this and learn about this stuff ourselves, seek out people that we can trust and rely upon to give us that literacy, so we know what is the best decision to make and how to actually take on that power with our money. So actually Veronica is going to talk a bit more about how we use fintech and how we can kind of bolster that literacy and inclusion for the community here, but also worldwide. So I'll just pass over to Veronica.
So we talk a lot about the use cases, the problem, and actually we try to explain financial inclusion as a problem. So microfinance is actually the solution. Many years ago, without digital technology available, it's a microfinance, which means that you break down loans into very small amounts so that everyone can actually borrow some money, a small amount for them to open a convenience store, to next door, or they want to buy a boat to fish and make a life. So they can actually start to borrow money and try to make a difference in their life. And the Grameen Bank, based in Bangladesh, was the first one to come up with a business model actually to control credit risk for these kind of loans. So if you imagine for those unbanked individuals, they don't have any credit history, they probably don't have any record of how much they earn. How as a lender, if someone, for example, a bank, when you borrow money, they will actually assess your credit history, your ability to repay the loan before they decide to give you the loan, and then you can use the money to run your business. So for someone who actually never have a bank account, for someone who don't have a credit history, how could the bank or the lender actually assess the risk of giving the money to them? So Mohammed Yunus, who founded Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, decided a community model to do a group lending to a group of people in the community. By means of, for example, there is 10 people living in this village, you lend amounts to all these 10 people and become a group lending. And if any of them actually default, then the rest of the 9 people actually need to repay it. So as a result, because the credit risk is being managed by the community, by the trust between the people, they probably wouldn't run away. They would try their best to actually make the business work, try to understand how much money they need to repay for the money that they borrowed before. They don't want to create trouble for the friends and family or neighbor next door, so they will try the best to repay the loans. And this simple business model works, and as a result, microfinance is proved to be can be a business. Is even without a very traditional approach of having collateral or having a history of understanding your capabilities to repay the loan. So this is back to basics without any technology, how it works in Bangladesh. So we say, what do these microfinance institutions do then? Traditionally, in the past, we say microfinance is just about credit, it's just about loans. However, it now evolves. It actually means a micro offering of different kinds of financial services. So you see that I try to explain the needs for financial services in this pyramid. You need an insurance to protect the basics. Imagine you are a farmer, or you're a hawker who use your motorbike to buy some goods and ship it to somewhere maybe 2 hours away. You grow some plants and you sell it, and you have motorbike that actually are very important tools for business. So what about that bike broke down one day? And what about it got stolen? What about it got hit by a car and it doesn't work anymore? So there are a lot of insurance products actually doing a micro protection for the goods, non-life insurance that actually try to protect the tools and assets of these micro entrepreneurs to make sure that they could get a certain level of protection when this kind of critical assets of what they need to use to make a living will be protected, and if things go bad, the life will still be protected. They can have some money to buy a new bike, for example. And after the basic needs are covered, maybe they want to grow the business. They don't want to use their motorbike to move the goods from one place to another because he got more business from village A, village B, and village C, and he needs a truck. So in order to do that, they actually need to borrow more money, because on day one he only have the money to move the goods for the bike, but he did really good business development, and then he managed to have more business, but he needs some money to buy the truck in order to grow and to ship more goods. So then he borrowed the loans, and with the anticipation of the business growth, and he will pay the money later. So after certain level of loans being borrowed and the business is going well, they started to think about how could I save, and started to have some savings. So savings is also important because there could be accidents at home, there could be issues with health, and you always have some needs for emergency. So the savings and loans are actually for the need. And when you really have extra money, you actually started to think about investments. You buy another piece of land, you started to buy a home. It's actually very simple. And I do this training first time to an NGO in Hong Kong who is providing financial literacy training to domestic workers. So everybody needs that, and after they have savings, they have investments, and they're free. So there's a smile on the triangle. So microfinance institutions actually is about providing microfinancial services for the people who needed these micro services and would perceived by traditional bank as costly to operate. So that's why financial technology needs to come into the picture. Because if we do everything manually, if we do all these analysis manually, on papers, on going to be visiting one by one to assess all the risks, because I know this person lives next to next door of the existing borrower. So it's becomes very costly to run, and financial technology actually have a place to improve the efficiency by means of reducing the cost, making this microservices even more affordable. So if you look at the pain points of the industry of generally financial services, digital finance as a solutions can actually help a lot of reduction of cost, because that's actually my job in the bank, to reduce cost of operations. So you see that actually for the blue, the lighter blue is the original cost in terms of size, traditional bank branch, and then for the deeper blue is actually a digital solutions. So you see that out of the services of cost of opening an account, cash in and cash out, which means you need to take the cash out, and then for transactions, which means we pay payments. So the ability to reduce costs happens a lot in transactions, and that's also explained why in the digital finance space, payments, e-commerce, mobile payments are the first one to take up, and there's so many fintech companies started to look into it. We just for the apps that we use, for example, we have WeChat. They can manage payments between individuals. They manage payments between shops. So that's explained why everyone are there, why they're so crowded, because they're actually a huge savings there, and there's a need for an industry. And by having a technology solution, it can lower the cost of operations, which means making micro financial products affordable, even to the unbanked. And that is why actually, from someone who working in the banking industry, I'm also very passionate and interested about this topic, because I believe that if you can produce a product that even an unbanked can afford it, you can actually introduce it to everybody, and it will always be profitable. So, following the story, next wave of financial inclusion is really about digital finance transformation and human resources for digital finance. So, after hearing all this, I'm sure it comes with, okay, how can you get involved and how we can get involved? I personally get involved by just founding my startup company. So actually the little logo there, FoundYou, is my social enterprise that I decided to start it this year and run as many workshops as what we're doing today, curated experts, interest experts, who are passionate about the topic to participate. So what can you do as a student? If you want to learn more about financial inclusion, actually there are a lot of international charities, research groups already realize that this is the problem. So I'm not going to introduce them one by one, but probably go through a quick introduction of each, but you can take a picture or you'll receive the slides afterwards so that you can just Google it and to know a little bit more about this. So these are all the foundations or charity groups that put a lot of money to do either on policy research for financial inclusion or providing opportunities and technical assistance to all those microfinance institutions, or provide fundings to financial literacy. For example, Gates Foundation is also one of them. Just try to put some money on this problem and let the solution to take off. So for example, the CGAP is a very famous research group that focuses on research on financial inclusion, what consumer protection for the unbanked, what kind of regulations and technology actually will be useful for achieving financial inclusion. The next one, FinDev Gateway to Financial Inclusion for Development, is actually a program under the CGAP, and they are actually providing a lot of libraries, a lot of webinars, a lot of jobs and internships that you can explore. So if you search Google FinDev Gateway, so it's really a gateway for people to access and be part of the community if you want to join the force of financial inclusion. UNCDF is the United Nations Capital Development Fund, so it's like an investment fund under the UN program to serve the least developed countries in in the world. So they do partnership investment on investing in particular solutions and try to make that product deploy to the least developed countries and achieve financial inclusion from a digital finance investment standpoint. So where you have a World Bank Group, Grameen Foundation, there are charities all developed to improve financial solutions for the world. And finally, for Center for Financial Inclusion is actually a knowledge curator platform that they have a lot of articles and blogs that is written by industry experts if you want to learn more about financial inclusion. And since I run this startup, I read them almost like every day. Yeah. If you're looking for jobs, internship on financial inclusion, again, I try to shortlist a few. So you can check out this Facebook and webpage. If you're thinking about a winter internship or like applying an internship next year and want to really be part of the financial inclusion workforce. So here are other sites that actually have a lot of internships and different assignments opportunities in mostly developing countries to do research, to do field work, for you to actually be part of it. And I understand there are a big population of developers, students from science school and engineering school. There are open source projects actually available for you to participate. Since we have some business students in the group, can someone explain to the class that what is an open source project quickly?
Well, from the business stuff over there, right?
Anyone? Anyone can explain what is an open source project?
I think the open source project is just let anyone can see the code, so anyone can manage it and develop the code. So it is developed by everyone.
So traditionally, all the in-house developments as a product will be, you close your door and nobody can see what you do. Even in our bank where we decided to develop a product, our code base are only accessed by the staff or developers within our company. So an open source project actually means that it's usually run by a foundation. And as our classmate, sorry, your name? Alex, yeah. Alex say, everyone can participate. Everything is open. So if you want to participate in this project, you just go to the GitHub and look at the code, and then you can contribute your code. And there is some mechanism for people to review the codes, to do code reviews before the code is being published to the final product, which means that the product is actually for free, because everyone for free to download and to use it. It doesn't mean that it's for free to run. So let me clarify. So open source project is not free from a cost perspective, but it's almost free when you decided to use the outputs of the open source code to make it applicable as a product. So if you decided to go for a hackathon or go for any competition, probably if you can look at any kind of open source code available, you can use the code and then further build on top of it and contribute to the code base and build the open source product. So the amazing thing about this is because we talk about we want to build low-cost products, and these are the product that actually is open sourced and is trying to build a product for financial inclusion. So MIFO's initiative originally started with a lot of funders, and then they were meant to be an apps that allow anyone to just download the code base and build an app on mobile phones to do basic financial services, the payments, the loans, and that was the first version of what MIFO's vision is supposed to be. And then now they are already on 3.0, and then the MIFO's initiative is being adopted by Apache Fineract. So if you look at the GitHub, actually the code, the commit are very active. It's like every day, every 2 days, there is around 100 developers in the community that is contributing to the code. So Apache Finiract take on measures to make it become a 2.0 open source project and make it more on top, instead of just a product that is for an app. They try to make it build an infrastructure for a really open source product for financial products, not just on an app. And Apache is a foundation that's do a lot of different kind of open source project, and they have put Finiract as one of the product under the Apache Foundation. And if you're interested to participate, you can also search the Google Summer of Code. There is a project under the Apache Foundation that you can pick it up, and then you can actually participate and try to participate in an open source project that have a social goal for financial inclusion. So regardless you're business students, you're from engineering students, you can actually participate like today, now. Yeah, when I do a lot of work in my bank as a change manager, the most important thing is think about what the next step you want to do and just do it. And then you will see the benefits and you will think about how to do it a bit differently. Is to start, okay? And like how I started FoundYou, like how I found you here all, actually through the FinDev gateway, I found out that, oh, that actually a financial inclusion week virtually happening online. And I told them, oh, we are actually doing a financial inclusion education seminar is a part of it. So the goal is to have different partners to make financial inclusion week possible, organizing events to promote, engage with experts, thought leaders, your fellow peers on key topics such as disruptive technologies, consumer protection, and responsible finance. Exactly what we're doing. And I told them, oh yeah, I'm actually having an event in Hong Kong, and they collect our statistics, and we, everyone in the room, actually contribute to the statistics of globally how to make financial inclusion happen. So this is what I talk about. Identify the very next step you think, I can start now, make a change, and that's why I try to share. Okay, you can go for a summer internship, you can go for an open source project, everyone can participate anytime. And these are the hashtags for the Financial Inclusion Week. And under FoundYou, we have a Happy We Found You social space. And since I have tried to compile all the knowledge that when I built FoundYou to share within the short 15 minutes, I strongly recommend you to follow us on all the social media and be part of our community if you're interested to start a discussion group on how to participate in a open source project for the business students, how to find a job in the financial inclusion in charities or foundations. So we can always curate and start the discussion now, today. So you can sign up our Facebook for news, and then on the right-hand side there is a Typeform link. You can actually sign up as our experts, and then we are planning our next workshop soon. Yeah, okay? So, actually, we do have a quiz that we prepared, but I forgot to log in. So, So as the class is going to be interactive, please have your mobile phone. We talk about mobile finance, mobile payments all the time, and log on to kahoot.it and log in this number. And type your name if you want a FoundYou t-shirt. Whoever got the 5 top score will have the t-shirt and throw it straight to your face. We have Josh, Hugo, hi. Olivier. Try to achieve gender diversity here, so. Oshinarado, wow, cool name. Is it real name? Okay, Kuchi. John, 6. I have 5 t-shirts, and we have 30 people in the class, so. Okay, Naoki, Nick, okay, picking up. Wilson, Harrison. Oh, we have people who just came and just tried to learn from joining our quiz. Please, welcome. Kahoot.it and enter number. Bridget. Thomas, hi. Why? Okay. Anyone else? Still try to log in? Okay, so let's start. 1, 2, 3. How many adults in the world are financially excluded? Okay, let's see. Woo! So we have 5 very attentive students. Okay, so next. Kuchin is the fastest to answer. So we'll have the score accumulated. The faster we get a high score, and then we have 5 t-shirts. Okay. Okay. Next. How many supply chain workers are paid in cash? Ooh. Got 8. Oh, they're really attentive, like with the numbers, because we have a lot of science and engineering students. Okay, maybe. Let's see. Okay. Oh, Kuchi is looking forward to meet you. Okay. Next. What is the population of migrant domestic workers in Hong Kong? Oh, it's very close, 340 and 380, and they remember. Cool. Okay. Oh, get cooking. Okay, Thomas, where are you? Keep going, okay? Okay, let's go. What is the name of the open source project on the financial inclusion being mentioned by Veronica? Okay. Oh, Apache Finirect. Yeah, Apache Finance and Apache Finirect. The Mifos Financial is not Mifos. It's just Mifos. Okay, sorry, but it's not the second. Okay, so let's see. Yes. Ooh, Kuchin. Okay. So can I take a picture first, because I don't know what is happening. If I click next, shall I? We have Kuchin, Thomas, Kuyan. Okay, remember a name, okay? Okay. Oh, I still have one more. Okay, where is the origin of Grameen Bank? Okay, they remember. It's Bangladesh. So next. Oh, Kuchin, where are you? Kuchin. Woo! Kuchin. Oh,
No, I'm not.
where's Kuchin? Oh, hi. So you must getting a small size. Congratulations. Medium? Okay, sure. Medium. Okay. So it's Wei leading. So she's very attentive. Thank you. Which school are you from? Just curious. Business. And Kuchin is your name? Okay, and we have Thomas. Okay. So you need M or M?
larger one?
Larger? It's actually quite large, the t-shirt, because they are, or actually what I imagined yesterday, I wanted to throw the t-shirt actually.
I think that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. All right, yes. Okay, and we have Xiu Yan. Hi, okay. You get an S? S? Ooh. Okay, so actually I intend to give out 5 of these, so let's get the results. Oh, Olivier. Olivier, hi. So S? Yeah, okay. Okay. Do we have, oh, is it running already? Oh, I'm sorry. We have M.
Oh, that's fine.
It will be huge, but you can take it as pajamas and remember I found you. Okay? S? Oh, this is S? Oh, yes, we have an S. Okay, happy we found you. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, okay. So, and lastly, George. Hi, you take an M. Is it fine? Yeah, it's fine. You grow. All right, so thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the class. So we'll take maybe roughly, we have too much fun together, but let's do a quick 20 minutes because we plan to invite Professor Veronique to interview us just to share about why we're here, what is our career development, and maybe you have some questions on why we become part of the financial inclusion community. So we invite Professor Veronique to just do a little interview at the end of our seminar. Do you have one?
Do you have one? Do you have one?
Yes. All right, how much time do we have?
20 minutes, let's say, yeah.
So until 7:30, roughly? Yeah. All right, so what do you want to know about them? This is a very unresponsive class. I mean, seriously, if you were in my class, you would have 0 for participation. Very bad. Oh, terrible. You don't want to know anything about them? Oh, you do? Okay, what do you want to know?
I need to think about it.
All right, okay, so I'm going to start with, oh, somebody's asking a question? All right, no, okay. Okay, so we already know about you because you're HKUST. Yeah, so, okay. Filippo,
Yes, I'm not.
you're clearly not HKUST.
I'm not.
This is terrible. So how did you, okay, you're from Italy?
I'm from Italy, yeah.
Okay, and you grew up in Italy?
I grew up in Italy. I did my undergrad in Italy, and then I started traveling. I did my master's.
Undergrad in what?
Hmm?
Undergrad in what?
I started in development studies, political science, and then I went to my master in economics.
In economics. Where did you do your master? In Italy as well?
No, my master was a half between USC Berkeley and the other half was Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona.
So once you graduated,
What happened? I picked the first opportunity that came, and it was this fabulous internship for a research project in Bangladesh, in Dhaka. At the time, I didn't even know where Dhaka was, so I moved there without much background, and then I found it was incredibly exciting to be on the field and do research, interesting, and I ended up staying almost 4 years.
so what were you doing there?
I was working on always in a global supply chain, different project about vocational training. I worked as economist with the London School of Economics and Oxford University, and then I worked and then I moved to Hong Kong to work as a consultant with BSI, which is a no-profit membership-based organization that does sustainability strategies for multinationals.
Happy with your life so far?
Very happy. I really like Hong Kong. It's a very enjoying. Yeah.
Okay, good. Nat, so where are you from?
I'm from the UK. So
I'm quieter than Filippo. But yeah, so I'm originally from the UK, from Oxfordshire, so quite a small village there in the Cotswolds. which I can appreciate a lot more now living in Hong Kong than I did growing up.
Well, you should move to the new territories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm certainly more suited to city life now, I think. Certainly the pace. And having moved from London in 2015, I found that the pace of working in the UK and in London in particular just didn't match up to Hong Kong. So I actually moved with the same company that I was working for in London, and I found everything just took so long to get done. Here, we like everything done yesterday, and we work at a very fast pace. But yeah, I'm certainly more Hong Kong adjusted now.
So you're a Brit that
Yeah.
has come to Hong Kong eventually, but you know, we jumped from England to Hong Kong, but we don't know anything about you. So
Yeah,
what did you study?
Well, if we start at the beginning, I actually studied law, and I intended to follow the path being a barrister. And as some of you might know, that is a very long path, and I didn't grow up thinking this is what I want to do, that's my end goal. I actually originally wanted to be a vet at school, but I was terrible at science. So that kind of got shut down quite quickly. And law just seemed like something that would keep me interested for 3 years throughout the undergraduate. I then decided actually it's something that I really enjoyed, particularly the advocacy and standing up in court, arguing a lot. That I really like that part.
You like arguing? She likes arguing? She
Not that
argues a
much.
lot?
Not that much. Public speaking more now. I think I've kind of fine-tuned it. But yeah, so that then, it kind of dawned on me, because I graduated around the time of the financial crisis. Lots of people were really struggling to get positions, to find work. And I just thought, actually, I don't have that burning passion for the legal profession that perhaps some of my fellow students did. And did I really want to go through all those rounds of rejection, applying for pupillage and scholarships and all of this, when I could actually just get working? So oddly enough, one of my tutors, he's Greek and he had connections in Cyprus. So I ended up doing an internship in Cyprus for a law firm that anybody who knows anything about Cyprus will know about the Cyprus issue and how they have this divide between the Turkish Cypriots and the kind of, the conflict that goes on there. So that there was a lot of European law issues that I was then researching. Fast forward to kind of a year down the line, I thought, this is all very nice, living in Cyprus and being 5 minutes from the beach, but I should probably get back to real life and move back to London.
Why?
Well, I was actually at the time working about 4 jobs at the same time, so working in a restaurant and a bar and all of these other things to supplement my internship. And again, it's all very fun, but my friends were then living the real life working in London, and I decided I should probably go and do the same thing. But now, a few years on, I have 3 or 4 different roles at the moment, the new Savvy being one of them. So I haven't quite dropped that busyness and just liking to be involved in lots of things. But when I moved to London, I worked for a recruitment agency in finance recruitment at Michael Page. And that taught me a lot in terms of interacting with different types of businesses, both candidates, clients, holding meetings, sales skills, all different types of really valuable skills to learn effectively as a graduate. I then took that into a very small real estate company who were just 28 people at the time. It was quite boutique, dealing with luxury London properties, and I saw the opportunity then to help them grow. And over the 4 years that I was with them in London, we scaled from 28 people up to 130. So it was very rapid expansion, and during that time I went from being the personal assistant to the founder up to being regional director of Asia, and that's what brought me to Hong Kong. I was looking after Hong Kong, Singapore, mainland China, and KL. So yeah, and then I suppose from that point, at the end of last year, I decided, actually being in this corporate environment, in quite an old-fashioned thinking company, there was more out there, and I really felt that there was something that I needed to do that had more of an impact. Selling luxury properties to wealthy people who are millions of miles away from where the actual property is, it's quite unrewarding, and so there was really this thing that was missing where I wanted to have more of an impact in my work, which has led me to running the new Savvy, focusing on financial literacy for women, but I also help to run a charitable organisation called Splash, and we teach domestic helpers and underprivileged children how to swim, which for most of us here is probably second nature. For a surprising amount of people, they're terrified of the water, can't swim, have never been to the beach or near a body of water. Again, we're living in Hong Kong, which is an island, but for a lot of the domestic helpers coming from the Philippines, again, they've never learnt to swim before. So throughout the few things that I do, I also have a real estate startup, which I still run to keep my hands in that side, and I have an office running in London. It keeps me quite busy, but I can certainly see that the work that I'm doing is having a more profound impact, which is really rewarding, and that's what I was looking for.
So Veronica, so it's a more classic career path maybe?
Pretty classic. I think quite similar to, we have a British education system in Hong Kong, heard from the Collins system. I think, I don't know how it's in UK, but in Hong Kong we all have a very disciplined kind of path in terms of, we don't have, at least for me, I was not being introduced to much different topics beyond the traditional professions like lawyers, doctors, banking, pretty much in Hong Kong, and that's it. And that's why I actually tried to push FoundYou, which is a company that I started to grow experts community for a topic that I haven't heard too much until recently, and that has inspired me to connect to so many different people and learn about what I really want to do. So and that's why I really want to do it at university level, so that you actually get exposed to new things, to things actually beyond, very far from your environment, and only because of those information will keep questioning, what I'm doing, am I spending every minute on a moment of my life for something I really want to pursue, and then you have a thought of, maybe actually I want to do something else. So that aha moment in me actually happened quite late, for the fact that I graduated from HKUST. I did not like marketing. I wanted to do speech and hearing therapist, actually. See, look at Veronique's face. I don't look like someone like that, and I did not have good enough grades, and I end up to put USC as my major, and then I never thought about studying business, and I don't like much of the accounting and operational management, all the rather financially technical class. I got a C or something, and then I basically got a pretty good grade in marketing. I ended up just continue to do that, and through that actually a lot of case competitions, a lot of international competitions, and for some reasons I always try to push myself outside Hong Kong, because I always have that question mark of, okay, I think this is too standard and too limiting, and I always want to look out, and I just by chance I have some volunteering experience for ethnic minorities in Hong Kong when I was 13, and somehow because my roommate in HKUST, I actually go for Beijing to work for China African Business Council, and then through those two experiences, actually there are a lot of interactions with foreigners in developing countries. And actually, that was my first interaction experience to foreigners. And it's a very different means of foreigners that we usually project in Hong Kong, because foreigners may be British, American, but my exposure to foreigners are actually the ethnic minorities in Hong Kong, and then the African students who moved to Beijing to learn medicine, architecture, engineering in Mandarin, for language that they never spoke in the last 20 years of their life, and they moved to a foreign country and pick up the expertise from a foreign country in China, and hopefully they can bring back something home. So I think all this experience end up, I decided to do FoundYou. Today we also have Chini from Nigeria. She's a business engagement agent, so I can engage with her after to build our pipeline for microfinance engagement. So I think all these things naturally connect, and I still try to utilize my existing connections or network. I look at my surroundings and whatever I can do for those topics, I try to do it. From moving from a standard operation consultant to digital finance to fintech, and then within the fintech association, I decided to continue sponsoring the financial inclusion and literacy committee. It's nothing as fancy as, oh, we have blockchain, we just talk about it in the afternoon. We have greater pay opportunity, a lot of money in those industry, financial inclusion. I think it's not, first of all, because it's serving the unbanked population, so it can't be as, money driven like those new industry. But I still believe that this is a topic that we need to take care of, and it should be a topic for everyone. So I decided to do it. Very happy to meet Filippo, Natalie, and all the amazing people with the committee. And then I have found you, and I found Chini somehow, and we are all working a little bit of part-time, trying to build a community and working on small initiatives, as I said, looking at what are the small little steps that you can do now. Then something else will happen.
So, audience, do you have questions? Yeah.
First of all, thank you, three of you, for talking here today. I have a question for generally. Do you guys think that banks right now are doing anything on financial inclusion? And I know that, Veronica, you specifically work in Societe Generale. Do you think your organization does anything to deal with fintech for financial inclusion? Thank you.
Actually, a lot. For practical examples, for example, a lot of European banks actually lend loans to those microfinance institutions that I mentioned to lend further, because in the standard value chain of our financial industry, we always borrow some money to lend, and then we cover our costs, and then their business is sustainable. It's the same business concept. I think Professor Farhani can long chapters to talk about it. But in my bank or a lot of European companies, even the first exposure of my experience in financial inclusion is actually with my previous employer. And not only they give money to give, we call it a loan facility to these microfinance institutions, they also promote staff to contribute their skills, and that actually contribute a lot of ideas and vision to FoundYou, is to promote everybody to use the skills to help on the financial inclusion problem. So you can imagine that in a bank, even in an investment bank or corporate banking or whatever bank, big enough that you can imagine the operations is as basic as savings, insurance, investments, those basic things. It's just the size is different. So you can imagine that the skills of every individuals in a bank can naturally offer some advices, help to a problem in a microfinance institutions. The difference is the context is different. The notional is smaller, the technology is less advanced, the organization is not as structured, they have less resources, but I'm sure there are things that we can help, and that's why FoundYou exists, and we'll keep going. And hope I answered.
I want to step in a little bit here because you talk about financial inclusion, but there is a very important regulatory aspect to it because in France, banks have to provide bank accounts to all French citizens. So this is a legal obligation, which is not the case in the UK, in the US, and other countries. So when you look at the problem of financial inclusion in France, it doesn't exist because there's an obligation on banks to provide basic banking services to everybody. So it's not just, financial inclusion is a problem. It is in some countries, but not in others. So we need to have, we grow up with our own perspective of what banking is. And then you move to another country and you realize it doesn't work the same way. And you are getting used to some types of banking services in your own country. And you realize that, guess what? In Hong Kong, the banks do whatever they want because it's the freest market in the world. Right? And if poor people don't have access to banking services, who cares? Certainly not the Hong Kong government.
It's interesting actually, just to expand on that point, because although we have this approximate figure of 1 million people having not have access to a bank account in Hong Kong, that is an estimate because the Hong Kong Monetary Authority won't comment on exactly what the figure is. Because of course we like to think it's very advanced here, we're very inclusive, we're very very friendly towards startups and to individuals coming into Hong Kong to invest. But in actual fact, the reality is not that clear cut. And there is an awful lot more that can be done. But you're absolutely right. Just identifying what are the local barriers and local issues. So as Filippo mentioned, it isn't as simple as just being able to have more branches. Well, how do I get there? How do I communicate with my bank if I'm living in a small village and I don't have the transportation to get there? There are all of these perhaps logistical things that would stop somebody from being able to use a traditional banking service that you or I would relate to. So these are the issues that we have to tackle as well.
Okay, we've run over time. I could go on with that discussion because the post office is a very good solution. Any questions? You all hungry? Okay, bye-bye.